My wife secretly married her boss in Vegas for $250, $0, then conned my family out of our $2 million inheritance by forging documents. Now she's claiming half our property in a bitter legal battle. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Thank you very much. Now let's begin the video, using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. It started with a gut feeling I couldn't shake. You know, that kind of uneasy sensation that lingers in your stomach, telling you something's wrong but not quite sure what. That's how I felt for months before I found out the truth. My wife, Emily, seemed a little different, more distant, more secretive. She'd come home late, brush off questions about her whereabouts, and always had an excuse ready: work stress. Or, I was with my boss, Mark. I didn't think much of it at first. We'd been together for over 10 years, married for 6, and I trusted her. Or at least I thought I did. But then came the signs that made me suspicious. She started deleting messages on her phone, hiding her screen when I came close. She'd get a little defensive if I asked about her calls or texts, almost like she was trying to hide something. I noticed she was spending a lot more time at her office, claiming she was working late. She'd even leave her phone on silent when she was around me, which was unlike her. Our conversations grew tense. She'd snap back if I asked about her plans or who she was meeting. The more she avoided me, the more my mind raced with possibilities. One night I decided to follow her. I know, how cliché, but I couldn't help myself. She left the house around 10 p.m. saying she was going to a business dinner. I followed her discreetly, keeping a safe distance. She drove to a hotel downtown, not far from her office. I watched as she entered, alone. That's when I saw her come out. About an hour later. She looked different, lighter, and she was holding hands with a man I'd never seen before. I froze. My stomach dropped. Her lips were pressed against his, and she looked happy, way too happy for someone who was supposedly just working late. I couldn't believe it. My wife, Emily, was cheating on me with her boss, Mark. And they weren't just sneaking around. They'd married in Vegas just weeks ago for $250, $0, according to some gossip I overheard at work. She told me she was planning a small weekend getaway with her friends. Turns out she was in Vegas, marrying the guy she'd been screwing behind my back. How did I miss all the signs? How did I not see that the woman I trusted with everything was capable of lying so blatantly? It felt like my entire world was crashing down around me. That night, I drove home in silence, trying to process what I'd just seen, knowing that everything I thought I knew about her was a lie. The next few days were a blur of anger, disbelief, and a strange sense of numbness. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with him, her lips pressed against Mark. Her face lit up like she'd finally found her escape. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I didn't see the signs of her growing apart, the late nights, the secretive phone calls. How could she lie to my face for so long? I was furious, but underneath that anger was a deep, aching sadness, like I'd been punched in the gut and left gasping for air. I decided I needed to confront her. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine when I knew the truth. So I called her at work one afternoon, voice trembling but trying to sound calm. I told her I needed to talk. When she picked up, her voice was smooth, dismissive almost. "What's wrong, John? Can't you just trust me?" she said with that fake sweetness that made my stomach turn. I told her I knew about her affair, about Vegas, about Mark. There was a pause, then she started laughing, a cold, bitter laugh that sent shivers down my spine. "John, you're so paranoid. You think I'd cheat on you. You're imagining things. Maybe you're the one with issues, always accusing me of stuff I haven't done." She spun some story about how I was overreacting, how it was just a fling, a mistake she'd made in a moment of weakness. She insisted Mark was just a boss who got carried away, that she'd never loved him, that I was the one she truly cared for. But I could hear the lie in her voice, see the way her eyes flicked away when I pressed her. I knew she was lying. I could feel it in my bones. That night I sat alone in the living room, staring at the cold coffee table. I felt betrayed not just by her cheating but by everything. Our vows, the years we built together, the trust I thought was unbreakable. It was like a switch flipped in my mind. I realized I couldn't keep pretending. I had to do something. I couldn't let her get away with this, not just the affair, but the whole con job she pulled on my family, forging documents to steal our inheritance, lying about everything. The woman I loved had turned into a stranger, a liar, a con artist. And I was left to pick up the pieces of my shattered life. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. How could she do all this? Marry her boss in Vegas, marry him for $250, $0 no less, and then turn around and try to take everything from me and my family. That wasn't just cheating, that was outright betrayal on a scale I never imagined. She had forged documents, manipulated my parents into giving her access to our inheritance, $1. 2 million gone in a flash. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. We had a life built on trust, on honesty, and she turned out to be nothing but a con woman. I started digging into her phone and emails. I needed proof, something concrete I could show to the authorities, to my family, to everyone who'd been duped. I found messages between her and Mark, full of flirtation, plans for their secret wedding in Vegas. There were receipts for the trip, hotel bookings, even a photo of her in the wedding dress she'd bought online. The whole thing was so detailed, so calculated. I also uncovered forged documents, fake signatures on legal papers, bank statements showing she'd transferred money from our accounts. The extent of her lies was staggering. She'd set up a whole web of deception, and I was the last to know. Once I had the evidence, I knew I had to confront her again, this time with everything laid bare. I called her at her office, told her I knew everything, that I had proof. Her reaction was instant and furious. She denied everything, called me paranoid, said I was just jealous. When I pressed her about the forged documents and the wedding in Vegas, she started crying. Real tears, fake tears, I couldn't tell anymore. She spun a story about how she was stressed, how Mark was her true love, how she never meant for it to get so out of hand. She claimed I was controlling, that I'd driven her to this point. But her excuses sounded hollow, rehearsed. I could see the lie behind her eyes, and I knew I had to act fast. That night I sat in the dark, feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train. The woman I'd loved, the woman I thought I knew, was a fraud. All those years of trust, of shared dreams, shattered in an instant. I knew I couldn't trust her anymore. She'd betrayed me in the worst way possible. But what was I supposed to do now? I had the proof, but I also had a decision to make. Do I fight for the marriage? Do I let her go? Do I destroy her like she destroyed me? The anger was bubbling over, but underneath there was a strange, cold clarity. I had to take control of my life again, no matter how much it hurt. The next morning I woke up with a pounding head and 1,000 thoughts racing through my mind. I knew I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know the full extent of her lies. I had to decide what to do next. Part of me wanted to tear everything apart, expose her, ruin her, make her pay for what she'd done. But another part of me knew that revenge wasn't just about hurting her. It was about reclaiming my life, my dignity, and protecting what was left of my family's inheritance. I started plotting my next move carefully. First, I contacted a lawyer, someone who specialized in family law and fraud. I explained everything I'd uncovered: the forged documents, the fake marriage, her attempt to steal our inheritance, her affair with Mark. I needed to build a case, not just for the legal battle ahead, but also to expose her to my family. I knew she'd lie her way out of it, spin a new story, say I was paranoid or jealous. But I had evidence now, and I was determined to use it. While I waited for the lawyer, I started digging even deeper into her financial records. I found bank transfers, secret accounts, and shady investments she'd hidden from me. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. She forged my signature on official documents, manipulated my parents into believing she was the rightful heir to our estate. I was stunned by her audacity. The woman I'd married was a master manipulator, a con artist who'd planned her escape from the very beginning. It was like discovering she'd been wearing a mask all these years, and I'd been blind to the truth. When I finally confronted her again with all this evidence, her reaction was even more outrageous. She refused to admit anything, calling me delusional, claiming I was trying to ruin her for no reason. She said she loved me, that she'd never hurt me intentionally. But I could see through her lies now. She was trying to spin her way out of the mess, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her I'd be taking legal action, that I'd be exposing everything. She looked at me with pure venom in her eyes, and I knew she wasn't going down without a fight. That day, I realized I had to cut ties completely. I couldn't keep living in this nightmare. I told her she could pack her things and leave. I didn't want her near me or my family anymore. I was done being played for a fool. I felt a strange mix of relief and heartbreak. I loved her once, but she'd proven she was capable of destroying everything we'd built. Now I had a fight on my hands, one that would determine whether I could salvage what was left of my life or drown in the chaos she caused. The anger was still there, but underneath, I was starting to see a way forward. I just hoped it was a way out of the darkness. The legal battle that followed was like nothing I'd ever expected. She fought hard, throwing every lie and manipulation she could muster. She claimed I was just jealous, trying to ruin her happiness, that her marriage to Mark in Vegas was just a joke, a mistake she'd made in a moment of weakness. She insisted she loved me, that she'd never meant to hurt me, and that I was overreacting. But I had all the proof, the forged documents, the bank transfers, the secret emails. I presented everything to my lawyer, and slowly the truth started to come out. The worst part was seeing her lie so convincingly, spinning stories about how she was the real victim, how I'd driven her to this, how she'd been pressured by Mark. She claimed she only married him because he promised her a better life, that she'd never intended to take everything from me or my family. But I knew better. I knew how calculating she'd been. She forged our signatures, manipulated her way into our inheritance, and married her boss in Vegas for $250, $0. She dollars told me she was just doing it for love, but it was all about the money. The court proceedings dragged on for months. I felt like I was living in a nightmare, watching her lie under oath, trying to spin her way out of every accusation. Meanwhile, I was gathering more evidence, reaching out to my family, and trying to protect what was left of our estate. My parents were devastated, betrayed just as much as I was. They couldn't believe the woman they'd trusted for so many years had been lying and cheating all along. It was a bitter pill to swallow, watching their inheritance get tangled up in her web of lies. Eventually, the judge saw through her stories. The forged documents were exposed, and her attempt to claim half our property was denied. She was ordered to pay back the money she'd stolen and face charges of fraud and forgery. But even with the legal victory, the emotional damage was done. I felt like I'd lost a part of myself, my trust, my sense of security. I'd been blindsided by her betrayal on every level. The woman I'd loved, the woman I'd built a life with, was gone. In her place was someone I didn't even recognize, someone capable of lying, cheating, and destroying everything we'd worked for. Looking back, I realize how naive I was to think love could fix everything. I trusted her blindly, and she took advantage of that. But I also learned a hard lesson. Sometimes, the greatest act of self-respect is walking away from someone who's proven they're not worth it. I don't know what the future holds now, but I do know one thing: she's not going to ruin my life anymore. I'm done being a victim. It's time to rebuild, to move on, and to make sure she can't hurt me again. That's what's left of my story, and honestly, I hope sharing it helps someone else out there realize they deserve better. Looking back now, I realize how much this whole ordeal changed me. I used to think trust was the foundation of everything: marriage, friendship, family. But I learned the hard way that some people are just good at hiding who they really are until it's too late. Emily, or whatever her real name is, proved to me that people can wear masks for years and still be capable of the worst betrayals. I thought I knew her, but she turned out to be a master manipulator, a con artist who used love and trust as weapons against me. The emotional scars are still there, no doubt. I'm angry, bitter, and sometimes I catch myself wondering if I'll ever fully heal. But I also feel a strange sense of relief, like I finally took back control of my life. I've learned to be more cautious, more guarded, but also more aware of the red flags I once ignored. I've come to understand that sometimes you have to lose everything to realize what truly matters: your integrity, your peace of mind, and your ability to trust again. I've cut all ties with Emily. I changed my phone number, blocked her on social media, and made sure she couldn't reach me. I told her she's no longer welcome in my life or my family's. The court has done its part, and I've started rebuilding my life from scratch. It's not easy, but I know I'll be okay. I've learned that revenge isn't about hurting her. It's about reclaiming yourself, your dignity, and your future. To anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, trust me when I say you're not alone. It hurts like hell, but you have to remember your worth. Don't let someone's lies define you. Sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away, even if it feels like giving up. Because in the end, you're the one who has to live with the choices you make. And if you're ever in doubt, just ask yourself, do I deserve this? If the answer is no, then get out, stand tall, and don't look back. I hope sharing my story helps someone else see the signs early, or at least gives them the courage to walk away when they're hurting. Because nothing's worth losing yourself over, not even someone you loved with all your heart. Life's too short for lies and betrayal. Now I'm focusing on healing, on finding happiness again, and on never letting anyone take that away from me again.